Good morning, everyone. My name is Lori Peak, and I am the director of the Natural Hazards Center. Our team here is joining you from the University of Colorado Boulder, which sits upon land within the territories of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We acknowledge that 48 contemporary tribal nations are tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. In our daily lives, may we honor, respect, and act in ways that acknowledge the past and present contributions of Indigenous persons while working together to advance a more just and equitable future. Wherever you are in the world today, it is an honor to welcome you to your 46th annual Natural Hazards Research and Applications Workshop. Nearly 1/4 of you are first timers here. To you especially, I want you to know that when I say welcome to your annual Natural Hazards Workshop, I mean it. While the Natural Hazards Center team has had the pleasure of organizing this workshop for 46 years, this meeting is what it is because of the people who attend it and the sense of purpose that you bring to all that you do. To our returning participants, you are like the spine that holds this body upright. Thank you for being here again this year, and thank you for helping to welcome our newcomers as well. This year, as with last year, we are again doing some things differently in this online environment. But as I will share with you this morning, there are still many traditions that we are going to work to continue to maintain. Before proceeding any further, however, I want to acknowledge that last year at this time, on this opening day of the workshop on July 12th, 2020, 136,190 US residents had lost their lives due to COVID-19. Now, 365 days later, that number has surpassed 606,000 deaths in the United States and more than 4 million globally. I understand that when using numbers on this scale, we risk that everything just becomes a gray statistical blur. But one of those hundreds of thousands lost due to complications related to COVID-19 this past year included our beloved former director of the Natural Hazards Center, Dennis Maletti. Our hearts are broken at his loss, and we know that so many of you too have lost loved ones. With that in mind, will you please join me in observing a moment of silence in honor of those who have died in the pandemic and also in the many other disasters that have unfolded around the world since we saw one another last year. Thank you so much. I also want to acknowledge, given this year's theme of the hazards and disaster workforce, that many of our friends and colleagues at the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and many other organizations and agencies that anticipated being with us at this workshop for the full week are now deployed to Surfside in response to the devastating tower collapse. You all are on our hearts and minds, and we thank you. This year at the workshop, we will focus on the theme of the hazards and disaster workforce, preparing to meet 21st century challenges. Here at the Natural Hazards Center, we are reminded every day that the work that each of you do is life-saving and life-sustaining. As climate change accelerates, inequality deepens, and environmental crises mount, your work has taken on a new energy and urgency, as well as what feels like ever-growing responsibilities. For this reason, this year at the workshop, we will concentrate on you, the people who do the work every day to help people prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters. We will focus on the researchers, practitioners, policymakers, and next generation leaders who are trying to reduce the harm and suffering from disasters. As always, we will gather to share our knowledge, to listen to one another, to ask questions, to learn, and to go forth with a renewed sense of commitment that emerges from a respect for one another, the work we do, and for the people we serve. In that spirit of learning from one another, we want to hear from you this morning. As many of the long-timers at this workshop know, on this opening morning, we would typically be crowded in the ballroom at the Omni Interlaken Hotel, waiting to say our names. But since we are in this online environment, we hope we can hear from you in a different way. In a moment, we are going to share the first of 2 links with you. The first link is going to ask you to respond to the biggest challenges that you believe our workforce is facing. While the second link is going to ask you about the one big change that you think would help to strengthen our hazards and disaster workforce. And so in a moment, I'm going to have Heather share this link with all of you that again asks, what is the biggest challenge that the hazards and disaster workforce is facing? So Heather, if you would you please put the link to this Google document in the chat for Zoom as well as in the feed loop chat box now? And to all of our amazing participants out there, would you please take 1 minute to respond to this question about the one big challenge? And I'm going to set my timer now. Oh, and Heather, just making sure, it looks like it might have gone to all the panelists. Will you make sure and share it to all panelists and attendees? And Jocelyn as well. Thank you both. Thank you. And we will restart the clock. So one big challenge, please. Okay, thank you everyone who took the time to share one big challenge. Now we're gonna take another minute, please, to learn from all of you. And now we're gonna ask this question about what is the one big change that you think would help to strengthen our hazards and disaster workforce? And so Heather, if you would you please now share the link with all panelists and attendees in FeedLoop and Zoom with the link to this Google document? Thank you, Heather. Okay, and to everyone out there, we're gonna again take one more minute, and now we want to hear about the one big change. Thank you. Oh goodness, and Olivia Vila just let us know they were both One Big Change. So if you saw the One Big Change previously, I'm going to go ahead and share the link for the One Big Challenge. Thank you, everybody. So hopefully you can see either One Big Challenge or One Big Change at the two links I'm going to drop in right now. Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone for taking a minute to fill out those questions, and please know the wonderful student volunteers that we have with us this week. They are going to be sharing these questions throughout today so that we can learn from as many participants as possible throughout today. And why are we doing this? So for those of you who've been to the workshop the last couple of years, we have been very fortunate to be joined by Elise Bernbach, who is with the Graphic Recording Studio, and she is going to join us again at this year's workshop. And Elise is going to take your responses to these forms and turn them into a 2021 vision mural for our community, which will capture your responses to the One Big Challenge and the One Big Change that you would like to see. And we will be sharing that as well as the results from your thoughtful insights at the close of this year's workshop. So in a moment, we are going to have a chance to meet this year's award recipients. But first, I wanted to share a little bit more with all of you about who registered for this meeting this year. So as of very early this morning, we had a total of 772 people registered for the workshop, making this the second largest in our history, only surpassed by last year's numbers. We also have a total of 465 people registered for the researchers meeting this year, which will follow immediately after the close of the Natural Hazards Workshop. And so for the workshop this year, we have registrants from 45 US states and Washington, DC. We also have registrants from Puerto Rico, the US Virgin Islands, and several tribal nations. About 15% of our participants are joining us from 24 countries around the world. And this year, Japan had the most registrants of any country outside of the US. So we offer a special konnichiwa to our friends and colleagues across the Pacific. Thank you for joining us. We also want to acknowledge that the first person to register this year from the Americas was Bryn Walker from Pierce County in Tacoma, Washington. So welcome, Bryn. And our first international registrant was Yoshiaki Kawata from Kansai University. And so Bryn and Yoshiaki, please know that we have all kinds of goodies here for you. We have t-shirts and we have bags and we have other goodies that we would love to give you and that are waiting here for you. And we sure hope that you will be able to join us in Colorado next summer. We hope that all of us are going to be back together in person next summer, public health permitting. So thank you and congratulations again. And thanks to everyone who is making time this week to join us for this workshop. So now I am so excited for you to meet some very special people. Each year during the opening ceremonies of the workshop, we acknowledge the recipients of the awards that the center gives each year. This is the time during the Monday morning welcome session when I would typically ask Betty Lai and Ponmalay Alana Lua to come to the stage to introduce the recipient of the Mary Fran Meyer Scholarship. So since I'm not able to ask Betty and Ponmalay to come up on the actual stage, I'm going to ask them to please come off mute and to put their videos on right now. And Betty and Ponmalay, would you please introduce the winner of this year's Mary Fran Meyer Scholarship? Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Betty Lai, and as Lori just said, this is Ponmalay Alanalua. We co-chair the Mary Fran Meyer Scholarship Committee alongside Ray Chang, Lisa Jackson, and our emeritus member, David Butler. For those of you who may not be familiar with this scholarship, the Mary Fran Meyer Scholarship was established in 2003 in honor of the former co-director of the Natural Hazard Center. Mary Fran always worked to ensure that practitioners, students, and international professionals would be able to attend the workshop. The scholarship was created to fulfill Mary Fran's request that qualified and talented individuals from these often underrepresented groups receive financial support to attend.
This year was, as always, a difficult selection process, but we chose one phenomenal recipient, Demboy Kudujera. We're delighted to introduce Demboy today to receive this award, and we encourage you to please see the workshop website for his full biography. Demboy, do you hear?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, colleagues. Unfortunately, I have to do the acceptance speech with my video off because I have unstable internet connection. If you me.
Unfortunately, I think Demboy's audio cut out, so Ponmalay will read his biography.
Yes, Demboy was born and raised in Zimbabwe, Africa, and he joined the Department of Anthropology at Memorial University in Canada as a PhD candidate in 2018. His research centers on the anthropology of natural disasters with a particular focus on natural disasters and humanitarianism. Prior to joining Memorial University, he has spent over 15 years leading disaster response, food security, public health, and policy advocacy initiatives in South Africa.
Thank you so much, Betty and Ponmalay. And Demboy, thank you for being with us. He, as Ponmalay mentioned, that not only does he work in Canada, but he was joining us this morning from Zimbabwe, where it's actually the sun is setting rather than the sun is rising. And so Demboy, congratulations again, and thank you for the work that you do. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to turn the stage over to Jessica Austin and Candace Evans, who served as the co-chairs for the undergraduate and graduate student paper competitions this year. And this year, we want to say we did not receive any submissions for the undergraduate student paper competition. So that is a void that we are hoping that we are going to fill next year. But we did receive a number of extraordinary submissions for the graduate student paper competition. And so Jessica and Candace, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Candace Evans.
And I'm Jessica Austin.
We are graduate research assistants at the Natural Hazard Center and served as members of the 2021 Hazards and Disasters Student Paper Competition Review Committee. The papers we receive are judged on contributions to knowledge in the field of hazards and disaster research. One undergraduate and one graduate student receives this award annually. Although, as Lori mentioned, we did not have any undergraduate submissions this year's graduate student winner wrote an exceptional piece.
The 2021 Graduate Award goes to Felicia Henry for her paper, Yo Bro, What I'ma Do Now, Understanding the Impact of Disasters on Populations Under Community Supervision. Henry is a Bill Anderson Fund Fellow and a doctoral student in the Department of Sociology and Criminal Justice at the University of Delaware. Felicia will receive a cash award and a plaque. You can read the abstract for her paper in your virtual program and the full paper on the Natural Hazard Center website. Please join us in congratulating Felicia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Felicia Henry, and I'm a sociology PhD student at the University of Delaware. I am so grateful to have been named the winner of the graduate student paper competition this year. My paper, entitled Yo Bro, What I'ma Do Now, Understanding the Impact of Disasters on Population Under Community Supervision, examines how the strains of community supervision interfere with an individual's experience before, during, and after a hazard and/or disaster, using interviews with 14 professionals who worked with people currently or formerly on community supervision. My work shows that disasters magnify existing challenges, particularly in meeting basic needs, and exacerbate social vulnerability. Thank you so much for recognizing my work.
Thank you again, Candace and Jessica, for your leadership with the Student Paper Award this year. And as you all just got to meet Felicia briefly, she's so sorry she couldn't join us this morning as she had a scheduling conflict, but she was able to send this video. And as Jessica said, we do hope that you'll visit the Natural Hazard Center website and read her paper, which is really fantastic. And we hope we're going to see in print very soon. So the third award that we always announce on the opening morning of this workshop is the Mary Fran Myers Award. And you will note that there were two awards named after Mary Fran, the scholarship that Pon Malay and Betty introduced, and now the award that I'm getting ready to introduce briefly. Mary Fran served as the co-director of the center for 16 years until her untimely death in the early 2000s. And prior to her passing, several organizations were very keen to recognize Mary Fran's legacy, including the Gender and Disaster Network, that especially wanted to recognize Mary Fran's goal of promoting research and evidence-informed practice that was focused on gender in hazards and disasters. This year's recipient of the Mary Fran Myers Award is Melinda Gonzalez, who is an Afro-Indigenous scholar, activist, and poet of Puerto Rican descent. She recently completed her PhD in anthropology at Louisiana State University and will soon start a postdoctoral fellowship at the Institute for the Study of Global Racial Justice at Rutgers University. And so Melinda also had a scheduling conflict this morning, but she also very kindly sent us a video that I am now going to share with everyone out there.
Hello, my name is Melinda Gonzalez, and I'm this year's recipient of the Mary Fran Myers Gender and Disaster Award. I would like to thank those who nominated me, as well as the committee for selecting me. I'm from Newark, New Jersey, and Moca, Puerto Rico, and a recent PhD from Louisiana State University's Geography and Anthropology Department. My research has been since 2017 on the aftermath of Hurricane Maria and how artists and poets have engaged in long-term disaster recovery. Particularly, I have been interested in how women and non-binary Puerto Ricans have engaged in community organizing and disaster recovery in the face of local and federal corruption, and how they have worked together to create alternative kin networks, as well as engage in various forms of community organizing. My future work is focused on the ongoing water crisis in Newark, New Jersey, where I will again be focusing on women and particularly on mothers and how they're dealing with ongoing environmental degradation. Thank you for this award, and I look forward to continued conversations with folks in the Hazards Network.
Thank you, and I hope you will all join in congratulating Melinda. And then finally, this year, we are thrilled to announce a newly established award that was actually made possible with the generous support of an anonymous donor who wished to see an award in recognition of those who are doing work in the area of disability and disaster. Researchers, practitioners, as well as those who support persons with disabilities in disaster. And so Heather Shimpo served as our co-chair for this award selection committee this year. And Heather, would you please introduce this year's award and award recipient?
Hello, as Lori said, my name is Heather Shimpo, and I am proud to introduce the Disability and Disasters Award. This is the first year that the Natural Hazards Center has offered this award, which was made possible, as Lori said, thanks to the contribution of an anonymous donor. The award supports hazards practitioners, students, and researchers committed to disability and disaster management and mitigation. The award itself supports the attendance of one recipient per year to the annual Natural Hazards Research and Applications Workshop, where the winner is invited to share their work and experiences with disability and disasters. The inaugural recipient of the Disability and Disasters Award is Dr. Kimberly Mills. As the director of the Virgin Islands University Center of Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, Kimberly promotes best practices for people with disabilities in her community, especially during times of disaster. A survivor of multiple hurricanes herself, she advocates for improving not only post-disaster experiences for people with disabilities, but also champions employment and technological accessibility through multiple forms of service at the local and national level. Kimberly also creates training programs and runs state and federal grant programs focused on training, researching, and developing related activities for the field of disability and disasters. Please join me in recognizing Dr. Kimberly Mills' work. We are so grateful for her contributions and thankful of all of you who also champion the rights of others and encourage inclusivity for people with disabilities. Congratulations, Kimberly, and thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm so honored to be here, and it's amazing to have been chosen for this inaugural award. I can say with certainty that there are many others in my community that might have been equally deserving of this fantastic honor, because you know, when you're sort of plunged into a situation like this, you're keeping your head above water and trying to help everybody else stay above water, and we were all really doing that work together. I am very happy to be part of this community, and we'll share more sort of specifically in a workshop. Some of my colleagues and I are presenting tomorrow at 1 o'clock. But I guess the best thing I can say about this is it's nice to be recognized, but most importantly, it's nice to be able to come out of a difficult experience with lots of pain, lots of suffering, and also lots of ideas and solutions for how things can be moved forward in a more beneficial way for people with disabilities and everybody that's impacted by these incidences. And thankfully, I will just say that my organization, we're playing an integral role in establishing the disability disaster mitigation plan that's currently being developed for the entire territory. So really excited about that. And thanks again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you for joining us from the U.S. Virgin Islands this morning, and thank you for the work that you do. And to all of our award recipients this year, please know that we celebrate you, offer warm congratulations, and thank you for all that you are doing with your work and practice and service in the world. And to all the participants out there, you can find the link in the chat that Melissa put in there to the full bios for all of the award recipients. And I hope during this week you will take a chance to network with them and to meet them, because they are all truly, truly extraordinary people. And so I'm going to share my screen one more time. And this morning, I am going to close out this morning's opening session by sharing with you a bit more about some of the traditions that always have been a constant at this meeting. And please know that I did this last year as well, focusing on some of the traditions, because one of the things that the team and I talked about was during this time when we're not able to join together in person, how important it is for us to keep these traditions alive in anticipation of being back together with all of you. And also because of some of the traditions we sure are hoping to keep alive in this online environment. And so first, I want to start with one of our longest standing traditions, which is the self-introductions on this opening morning of the Natural Hazards Workshop. So whenever people learn about this tradition of everyone who is able standing up to introduce themselves on the first morning of the workshop, they always ask two questions. Why do you do that? And how do you do that? Especially with sometimes 500 or 600 people in the room. And so the first question, the first answer to the question about the why is rooted in this recognition that if we are going to work together, we need to know one another. And one of the best ways to do that is to share our names and affiliations and to start recognizing one another. Now, the how we do this is always a little more complicated and a little bit rushed on this Monday morning. And so on this opening morning of the workshop, part of the director's job is to set the rules so that we can get through all of the introductions on time. It means we don't get to say hi or hello, we don't say our titles, because oftentimes they also take up a lot of time and they separate us. And so all we say is our name and affiliation, and we oftentimes only have 6 or 7 seconds to do that. And then also another rule that goes with the self-introductions, but also stands throughout the entire Natural Hazards Workshop, so I hope that we will all stick to this week, is under no circumstances do we use acronyms. We try to make this an acronym-free zone. And so because this is a virtual space, we are not going to be able to do these introductions this morning in the same kind of way. But we're going to try to do something a little different to get us all used to the virtual platform. And so if you would, you should notice when you look at the platform that there's both the feed loop chat, but then if you're in the Zoom, you should also be able to see a Zoom chat. And so if you use the Zoom chat, the speakers and the moderators can actually see what you're saying. And so we want to make sure throughout the week that you're actually using that Zoom chat as you can. If you use the feed loop chat, don't worry though, the amazing volunteers that we have are transferring those feed loop chats over. And so as we use the chat feature in Zoom when possible, we're going to try that out right now. So if you would, please click in the chat box on Zoom, and then will you share your name, your affiliation, and then also how many workshops you have been to. So my chat entry would look like this: Lori Peak, Natural Hazards Center, and 20. This is my 20th workshop. So will you please put that in the chat box for you, your name, your affiliation, and how many workshops you have been to. Okay, thank you everyone very, very much. And so next tradition I want to cover briefly, and we're going to share another link now related to this, is we are going to, oh, and I see so many more are still coming in. So yeah, I'll give this another minute. This is great. Name, affiliation, and number of workshops. Welcome to our first timers and our long timers. Oh, I see Jim Kindred, this is also your 20th. So maybe we met at our very first workshop together. Thank you, everybody, and welcome, welcome, welcome again. So now to our second tradition. Well, we have strict rules during that morning set of introductions. As with all rules, sometimes there have to be exceptions. And so our one exception to the rule during the Monday morning introductions is if you are a job seeker or if you have a job to share, we actually give you an extra 7 seconds to either say what that job is or to share that you're looking for a job. And yesterday, Lindsay Davis of the United States Geological Survey and Jocelyn West of the Natural Hazards Center ran an amazing career Kickstarter session. And I'm hoping that we can make sure and share the job seeking document now in the chat and know that we'll be sharing it throughout the workshop. So if you're a job seeker or if you are somebody with a job, we will ask that you please make sure and share those materials. Now, the third tradition that we want to share and we're going to be sticking to this week is that all sessions at the Natural Hazards Workshop start on time and end on time. And so we have asked all of our moderators and our panelists, just like every other year, to make sure that the sessions start and end on time. A fourth big tradition is the Natural Hazards Workshop has always been known for its relatively long breaks and lunches, as well as the Tuesday evening barbecue. Dennis Maletti and Kathleen Tierney, both former directors of the Natural Hazards Center, used to always joke that the sessions have to start on and end on time because they only exist so we can have the breaks and the lunches. Well, they were, of course, teasing, sort of. They were also making the point that it's during these downtimes when we actually get our work done, meet new people, and reconnect with old friends. And this is where the magic often happens at the workshop. And so this year, we're not going to be having those lunches together, that barbecue together, but we sure do hope that you will take advantage of the networking features that are in FeedLoop and work again to really reach out and welcome the first timers, the newcomers, and also to reconnect and to connect with friends old and new. Now, fifth and finally, a hallmark of this workshop is the way that it brings together people from diverse sectors, backgrounds, and all walks of life. Each year at the workshop, we try to ensure that we have a mix of participants from academic institutions, local, state, and federal government, nonprofit, philanthropic, and professional associations and organizations, and the private sector. And this year, almost 1/5 of our participants are students. So Gilbert White, who is our founding director, wrote in 1975 that workshops provide a ready opportunity to exchange detailed information and to argue the merits of various perspectives, but they need to be attended by professionals from the full range of disciplines and by policymakers from various levels of government. And so we take the view that everyone is an expert here and you all have a story to share. You all have knowledge and information to bring to the table. And as the world keeps showing us, it is going to take all of us working together to turn this tide of hazards losses. So thank you for allowing me to share a bit of our past as we now stare into an uncertain future, but one that we hope we're going to bring into sharper focus this week. So thank you for making this workshop possible this year through your attendance and participation. And we are also, as always, so grateful for the support of various federal agencies that have made this workshop possible. I also, as we prepare to launch into the first 3 full days of this workshop activities, want to thank and acknowledge the extraordinary team here at the Natural Hazard Center. As I bring this opening to a close, I especially want to acknowledge all who have contributed to this meeting. So Jennifer Tobin has led these planning efforts with an unparalleled focus and determination, as well as smarts and hearts. Jolie Breeden, Katie Murphy, Jeffrey Gunderson, Megan Costa, Robin Albright, and Terry McKenzie have made sure every piece of the puzzle has come together. And in addition to the core team, every single person at the center has contributed in some way. And so with that, it is now time to end this opening with gratitude to all of you, with gratitude to the Natural Hazard Center team, to our speakers, moderators, and to our upcoming keynote speaker, Chauncey Willis. She's going to be talking on the best kept secret. So I hope you will make your way in feed loop over to the next session now, and we'll go live in just a few minutes. Last but not least, thank you again for being here today. It is a great honor and gift to be in your presence. Please take care of yourself and others, and see you in the keynote. Bye, everyone.